Hey there, welcome back to Desk-Bound Aviator. I'm Steve, your host. And today we're in South America, in Cali, Colombia. And we are going to take another flight in the big brand new Airbus A350. Now this isn't normally a flight you would do in the A350. It's a big airplane. And where we're going to go, I'll show you on a chart here. Let's jump over to, well, you can see it here in Sim Brief. We're going from Cali down here, southern Colombia, up here to a place called Bucaramanga, Colombia. And you can see it here also on my Google map, which shows me all of the places in South America where there are airports that have autogates. For those of you who are autogate freaks like I am, this is where all of the airports are that have autogates, where those spread stars are. So we're going to go from Cali, fly over Bogota, and then on into Bucaramanga. I'm not pronouncing that right, I'm sure, but that's okay. It's an interesting flight, a short flight, and you wouldn't normally go in here because the runway is probably too short for an A350, but we're going to try it anyway because the approach is really kind of fun. Okay, so we'll jump back over here. I've got some traffic set up in World Traffic 3. We'll see if that has any impact on us. We'll go inside first of all and start to get things set up. Now, before I do this, I want to just make a statement that if you're an Airbus pilot, you don't want to be watching this. You're going to see all kinds of freaky mistakes and shortcuts and things that I do that work in the sim, but they probably don't work in real life. So I apologize for all of that. Those of you who are aficionados of Airbuses and of doing things absolutely perfectly in XPlane, you're going to be scratching your head a lot. So just so you know going in, caveat emptor. Okay, we're going to first press on the battery switches here, get some power to the aircraft, and as long as that's going on, I'll turn on these ADIR switches and get that system started up. Then I'm going to jump over here to our OIS panel, information systems of some sort. I'll go to ground service, and to make a long story short, I found it easier to just use their set configurations rather than try to do my own. You can do your own very easily, but I find I have problems later on loading the aircraft. So I'll just pick load config, and then I'll go to ground equipment and say auto config and ground power. That's really what we're mainly interested in right now, is the ground power. So then we can come back up here, and now that we have ground power to the aircraft, we can go ahead and click on the little external power switches right there, and we might as well let people know that we're on board. Turn on the beacon light is what I'm doing there. Turn on the logo light too, so people know what airline we are. We're Air Mexico today. So from here, I'm going to go down. Let's see. Let's go down here and turn on some lower lights on the lower panel on the console. Trim light, shut the doors, and lock them. Then I'm going to come up here to the center panel. I've got my view set so that I can see this row of buttons on this lower panel right here. I found it, contrary to some of you who may have watched some wonderful videos by a fellow in Scotland who actually is an Airbus pilot, I think, who switches these panels with the OIS. I prefer to keep this one down here so that I can see these buttons and I can just jump from one view of this panel to another just by hitting these 11 different buttons down here, although I don't use all 11. So here we are in the FMS screen, and the first thing we want to do is tap init for initialization. Our flight number today is going to be AMX222, Air Mexico, and we're going to go from SC, what is it, SC, make sure I got the letters correct. It is going to be SKCL to SKBG. SKCL, hit enter, to SKBG. Now, SimBrief gives us an alternate location, SKBO. We'll go ahead and put that in here in the alternate slot, SKBO. I have a route set up and stored as an FMS file, so all I really need to do is click on the route select button. That'll take me to my flight plans folder, and I can see that I have stored SKCL to SKBG, and I'll go ahead and apply that. So that's now loaded. I don't even have to type it into the slot there. You can if you want to, but it isn't necessary. Our cruise altitude today is going to be 360. Cruise temperature, we have to enter, there we go, we have to enter the altitude first. The cost index, we can jump back over here to SimBrief. SimBrief gives us a cost index of 15. So let's go ahead and type that in. 1.5. And from here we go down further. There's nothing else to be done there. We can go to the departure page. Skip IRS for the moment. I'm not certain that it's already ready to load the IRS. So we'll go to the departure page, and within the departure page we're going to pick runway 2 as our departure runway. And let's see, the SID is going to be ULQ8B to ULQ. And that looks like it right there. And transition, well, it's done. It's just taking whatever it is the system gives us. So go ahead and import that and insert it. Now we can go to SKBG and enter in our arrival. Now our arrival today is going to be on runway 35, and I'm going to pick ILSY for that. And the VIA is going to be PIE, I believe. Let's just check that out. See what, there's no, we're not using a star, so I'm just, I'll use via PIE. There won't be any star, and therefore there's no transition. So we'll just enter that and insert it into the plan. Now, we can see on our chart here, if I go ahead and switch this over to plan mode, and come back down here, we can just tap on these arrows, and I can see on the chart up here, I've got enough of a view, I can see our route, see if there's any issues with that particular route, any discontinuities or strange little oddities that we need to be concerned about, and I don't see anything. All right, so from there we can come back to init, and now we can load the aircraft now that we've got the flight plan essentially established. Let's see what the IRS looks like. Yeah, see 3 minutes, so we'll go ahead and return. Let's go to fuel load, and we need to get some data from the fuel page or from the loading page, so we'll go back over to the OIS screen, and now we can go down to airplane. Within airplanes, let's go to passengers, and once again, I've found it just easy to pick one of these pre-established setups. So let's use heavy, which only fills us with 240 passengers. This aircraft will accept more than 300 passengers, but in the simulation that FlightFactor provided us, they only allow it to go up to something like 250 at most. settings, but I'll pick the heavy, and the heavy indicates that we've got total number of passengers 241. There's probably a few extra crew on board, so we'll go ahead and implement that. And you see that it indicates passengers and cargo loaded. Fuel not loaded yet, so we have to go to the fuel page. Now you can use Avatab to refer to your saved PDF of the SimBrief flight plan. I'm just going to simply switch back over to SimBrief, and I'll scroll up here, and there's our flight plan fuel right there. So the trip fuel is indicated as 5530 kilotons, or kilograms rather. 5530. Enter that. The alternative is down here at ALTN, that's 4629. That contingency is contingency is 3272. 3272. The final reserve is 5580, or takeoff remain, it's what they call it here. It was 5580. Into that. And the APU time, we generally allow 30 minutes APU time and 30 minutes taxi time. That may be excessive, but just for simplicity, we'll go ahead and use that number, and now we'll go ahead and implement that. And it indicates the fuel is now loaded. And you can see outside the aircraft, we've probably got a fuel truck out here. There it is. A tanker, as a matter of fact. And we're loading some baggage while we do this. All right, so now we can go back up here to this passenger screen, and what I'm looking for here is the ZFW and the ZFW-CG, the center of gravity. So the zero fuel weight is 188.5 tons, and the center of gravity percentage is 21%, 188.521. Jump back over here to this screen, 188.5, enter, and 21 for the ZFG. Now the block fuel indication, we will get that from the next screen, fuel page, and it's down here on fuel on board, and you want to round this to the nearest thousandths, so it'd be 20.7 is the number. Put that in there. Like so. Taxi, half a mile, trip, none of these need to be filled in. We've got our CI already established. These are all okay to leave alone. And now we can go back to return. From return, we can go to takeoff performance. Come back up here to this screen and go to performance calculator. We want to know the runway slope, and what I've been using is 0 for the runway slope. You can get into using different numbers if you like. I just use 0. Flap setting is going to be 1, and that allows us to see our takeoff speeds, our V speeds of 150, 59, and 61, and a flex temp of 48. So 50, 59, 61. 150, 159, and 161. And our flex temp is 48. Go ahead and set that to 1. The takeoff shift indicate is 1. And the flex temp, we use that as our propulsion guide, and that was 48. We can say return. Now if we go to IRS, we'll see that it's available, and we have the button enabled. It allows us to align it, and now the IRS is aligned. So we've now got the FMS all set up. I'll then jump here to the SURV survey button, and it's services, and it allows us to establish the transponder at being on auto. TCAS will set on TA for taxi, and we'll turn on these 6 switches here and these 4 guys down here. And now, having done that, I'll come back down here and turn these switches on. Those are the corresponding console switches to the TAWS, terrain awareness, and this is weather up here. So that everything's all set here. Now we can come back up here and start to set up the upper panel again. And the first thing we want to do is turn on the APU. You just do a quick jump down here and flip on the APU button. And we'll press the APU master switch. Wait just a second for that to get warmed up, and then we'll hit the start key, or the start button. And now, because we've activated the APU screen, we'll keep an eye on down here, and in a minute, as this thing warms up, you'll see this little indicator on the panel show us that the APU is now warming up. And it indicates that it's on. So we'll come back up here, and then we can put on the APU bleed and the APU generator. So now the aircraft is getting power from the APU as well as the external power. We can now go ahead and turn off the external power and just use the APU. Now while we're looking at this upper panel, we can just do our usual back and forth route through the panel, turning on the crew oxygen system, cabin facilities. These are all set with 8 ears. We can turn on the hydraulic systems. We can turn on these electric systems here, EMU, passenger systems, galley, commercial. Turn on the bus tie, that switches things over. We'll leave the generators off until we get the engines started up. We can turn the packs, well no, packs, we'll leave the packs off. That's air conditioning, and yeah, we could go ahead and turn that on, but we'll turn it off just prior to start. It probably is automatic on an Airbus, but I'll go ahead and turn it on for now. And then we'll let these dials crank up, so at least we can get some air conditioning for passengers as they're getting comfortable in their seats. The auto switch here, I'm not sure what that switch is, but it goes to auto. Hot air can go on. Engine bleed can stay off because we're not running engines just yet. Cabin pressure should go to auto, and that's fine the way it is. Let's just zoom in a little bit here and change this from nothing to target. This is cabin altitude. Leave that right in the middle. And we're fine here. We'll just leave that centered. Strobe we can leave off. Now we'll turn on the nav light and the compass. Turn that system on. Annuator test can remain the way it is. The external or the emergency lights in between the aisles can be armed. And we'll tell people to sit down and fasten their safety belts. I will come over here to cargo, air conditioning. These can come on. Temperature reg, let's set that up to 15. Same thing over here. And the heater can go on. Not sure what NSS means, but I know the switches go on. Ground hydraulics are auto. Vents, cabin fans can go on, and that's all we need to do with our upper panel for the moment. All right, let's go down here and take a look at the lower panel. We can turn off that warning light, and we can rotate this back over to arc mode, and we'll do this one likewise. And I always like to just extend this out so I can see our whole route. And about 160, maybe 180, or is it 160 or 320? Yeah, 320. That's definitely far enough out to see our whole route. We've got the weather system turned on both. We may want to turn on terrain on this system just so that we can see that in operation. Okay, QNH. Let's see with the QNH here at, where were we again? We were at SKCL. So in order to find that, I'm going to call up my little METAR request, type in SKCL, hit enter. It tells us that we're heading off to the north and that our QNH is set for inches at 2985 inches of mercury. So 2985. And we have to make the arrow go down and then click it to get to 85. We have to do that on both sides of this aircraft. All right, that's set. Nothing else to be done here. The only thing is to set the cruising altitude to 36. Like that. We can turn on the anti-skid switch and set the brakes for auto. And with that, oh, the last thing we do need to do, let's come back down here. We'll go to our radio, and we want to look, let's see, we want to jump over here to Navigraph Charts. Here is the whole thing set up in Navigraph Charts, and what Navigraph Charts does is it allows us to see the charts for anywhere in the world. Over something like 36,000 navigation charts are available through the subscription to Navigraph Charts. So we'll open up the chart list for SKCL, and oops, I'm sorry, wrong one. Yes, we want SKBG, we want the destination. So we'll open up the chart list for that, and we're going to be landing on approach 35Y, which is this guy right here. We see that our locator frequency is going to be 110.7, and the approach course is going to be 348 degrees. So 110.7, 348. Try that again. 110.7, 348. So we tap on the nav radio, and we want 110.7, 110.70, and 348, right? 348, that's what it is. 348. And that turns to white, which indicates that it's accepted. We can then go to our squawk and change that from slave over to master. From mode, we'll go to on. I'm sorry, we'll go to auto. And the squawk code is 2121, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead and turn this APU screen off and just leave it on the off position, which will allow me to see what the engines are doing when we start up the engines, which should be momentarily. So from that point, we need to call up our pusher.
Ground to cockpit. Please, show me where you want to go.
All right. Where I'd like to go is, I think right here would be fine. We can either make a left turn or go straight ahead, whichever.
Ground to cockpit. Tau is driving up.
Very good. So where we want to go, if we look at our chart of our airport here, bring this up so you can see it a little clearer. This is where we are, and we're going to back up right over here. We're departing on runway 02, so what we'll do is just go straight ahead down this taxiway and then make our merger with runway 02. Very simple. Let's go outside and see how this is going. And before we do that, actually, there is something else we need to do. We need to come in here to ground services, and we need to close all the doors. And in ground equipment, we need to get rid of all of these elements of the ground equipment.
Okay,
We've got our
all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Yeah, he's getting ready to connect. So we can turn off the ground power units. And in doing all of that, it's over here on doors and hatches. In doing all of that, it also eliminates them from the terrain. It removes the trucks and vehicles, closes all the doors, and we're all now set, ready to depart. While we're waiting for him to get started, let's just check over here. We've got SKCL. It's our departure airport. And we've got quite a bit of traffic around us. Let's zoom in right near the airport.
And bypass being inserted. Release parking brake.
All right, so we've got a little bit of traffic coming in. We'll keep an eye on that as we go. First thing I'm going to do is release the parking brake, and that lets the auto gate go away.
And you may start engines.
And he says we can start our engines. Okay, so to do that, I'll rotate the engine start switch and choose engine number 1. You see on the engine panel here now, it starts to crank up the big N2 fan. And when that reaches about 10 in this aircraft, it'll start to speed up considerably as it is now getting fed fuel directly from the engine tanks, not from the APU. And that allows us to come back down here and turn on engine number 2. And it goes through the same procedure. While that's doing that, over here you see a couple of indicators. One is for the speed brakes, or the whatever they call them on Airbuses. And so I'm going to activate those and get those armed by doing that. And the last thing I'll do is engage our flaps to flap 1. And that's indicated by this little green emblem and the 1F indication. Now our engines are getting ready to complete their startup process. I'll go ahead and rotate this back over to memory, or is it something? Norm. Didn't read it. And from here we can come back upstairs and see that now we can turn on the generators and the engine bleed. And now we can, well, the packs are on, so that's fine. We never did turn the packs off, so it must be automatic in Airbuses. In Boeing's, you need to turn the packs off. The APU bleed can come off, as well as the APU generator, and therefore the APU itself can be shut down. We can go ahead and turn on the strobe light. I always like to turn it on so I see all these switches in the upper position. It just helps me know that they're all on and active.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Great. Did that.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
I will do that. Ah, we've got an Avianca coming out and about to run into us. Let's see what he does. Hopefully he'll let us get out of the way. Give ourselves a little thrust. And we'll get our tail out of here, away from all this traffic. Or in front of all this traffic. All right, we're reaching the end of our approach here. Let's let this guy land first of all. Nice. Okay. So we're getting ready to go here. Let's take a look down at our center console. Jump over to the services window, and we'll switch this over to TARA, so our transponders giving us a warning of traffic in our area. Go up here to the lights. Those are all on. We'll go ahead and turn on the landing lights and the runway turn-off lights. Wing lights, well, you can turn them on, but they're not really necessary. It's daylight, and we don't really need to see on the wings at the moment. Gear up. Speed's above the S, so we'll go ahead and bring up the flaps even though we went down below it. And I'll come over here and press the APP button. That puts us on autopilot. Throttle back down to climb mode. And we can turn off the taxi light and the runway approach light. We'll leave the landing lights on until we pass 10,000. Go ahead and disarm the spoilers. There we are. Okay, let's check our route here. We're about to encounter our top descent I've gone ahead and plugged in our descent altitude, our final approach fix altitude of 5,500 feet. Now that gives you a clue of kind of what we're heading for here. It's definitely in the hills. So I'll keep you in touch here as we start our descent. Now in the Airbus, that is not an automatic process. And so as you may recall from our last video in this aircraft, what we do is we cheat a little bit to find out where that top descent is going to be. It's actually kind of difficult to find out using the onboard FMS system. So we cheat. We use the TOLUS system. And the TOLUS system gives us the old-fashioned FMS panel. And if we go to the performance page on that, we can see that we are 14 nautical miles away from our top descent. So I keep track of that. And when we're about 5 miles out, I'll go ahead and tap the altitude bug, and that should start our descent. Heading toward the runway. That's 7,900 feet. Throw in another notch of flaps. I'll go ahead and flip on the runway lights. And we don't have the wheels down yet, so I don't need the taxi lights on yet. Zoom in one more notch here, and that's close. And now let's take a look at what we're trying to land on.
Terrain.
Yeah, terrain is right. Terrain is right. Okay, as we approach, now I'm going to go ahead and turn on the APPR system. And that indicates that we've already acquired the locator. And we're looking for the glide slope right now. We're a bit high. So we're continuing to descend. And there's our glide slope. So we'll go ahead and turn on the second autopilot system. Take a closer look. And it doesn't look very hospitable for landing to me. This is what it looked like to me yesterday when I first flew in here. And I said, now this is going to be a challenge in an aircraft this size. It looked like we were going to try to do a water landing on that river down there. But as you'll see, out of the mist comes a runway. Okay, lights are all on. I'm going to go ahead and lower the gear. Looks good. Comes our 5,500 feet. Another notch of flaps. Now our approach speed is about 145 knots, and that's this red triangle or magenta triangle down here. And my experience is that you let the airplane do its thing. It wants to find exactly where it should be. So I'm going to make these screens go away and keep an eye on things as we approach runway 35 at whatever it is. Bucaramanga. Bucaramanga, I think that's what it's called. You see those little lights up there on top of that hill? Keep your eyes on those little lights on top of that hill.
2,500.
Speed's good.
Approaching 3-5.
Indeed we are. Happy lights look good. Last notch of flaps. Speed drops.
2,000.
And look at that. That's what we're landing on, folks. Are you ready for this?
1,000.
Terrain. Terrain.
Caramba.
300.
Terrain.
100, 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40,
Think rate.
20,
Think rate.
10.
Well, we missed our exit, but at least we didn't go off the edge of the cliff. Oh, there's an exit. Cool. Whoa, goodbye. All right, we're gonna come over here. And I think we'll take this open gate number 2. Ding. There we go. All right, so we'll turn the lights off. So what we can do now is go ahead and turn the engines off and open up. We've got the doors open. Let's turn off the engines. Shut those down. And let's take a look. And we see that our gate is approaching. Very nice. We can go outside. We've got our baggage doors open. We've got our generator hooked up. Gates attached. People are disporting. Let's go back up to our panel and go to airplane passengers and unload passengers. And we can verify that that's happened because if we take a look inside, there's nobody to be seen. Very nice. So that's another little trip in the Airbus A350 Aeromexico version. Beautiful aircraft. And I hope you enjoyed that little ride, especially the landing. I came in here last night and I thought this is really terrific. It's a lot of fun, even in a giant airplane like this. You normally wouldn't land. I think the runway here is something like 3,800 feet or 6,800 feet. But as you saw, it managed it quite well. You just slam on the brakes, and, no problem. Getting out of here tomorrow might be interesting, but I think we'll do all right. So thanks for joining me today. This is Steve, your host, again on Desk-Bound Aviator, where we have lots of fun. None of it serious, not much of it professional. but interesting nonetheless. If there's anything you want to see on this channel that I haven't shown you already, by all means let me know. Any aircraft or any procedures, I'll try my best to accommodate you. In the meantime, have a good day and stay healthy. Wear those masks. They work. Thanks a lot, folks. Bye-bye.